Hey, welcome to my channel. Hope you're doing well today. Hope all is good in your world, and I hope your weekend has been great so far. So today we're going to dive into bowstrings. I'm even going to give you a quick tutorial on how to make your own string, because that is one of the skills you as a new archer need to learn, and that way you will always have a supply of bowstrings to restring your bow with when they wear out. So with that being said, let's dive into this video. Let's have some fun. Now, when you're talking about materials for bowstrings, throughout history and even up until today, depending on where you are and your accessibility to modern bowstring material, bowstrings have been made out of linen, hemp, and hair. I can't imagine a hair bowstring. Something about that doesn't sit right with me. They've also been made out of sinew, silk, and rawhide. Now, the two that are most susceptible to water or falling apart and damage are the sinew and the rawhide string material that has been used to make bowstrings. There is also, there was a time, and I don't know if it's still today or not, but there were strings made out of a liquid crystal polymer, which is called Kevlar. Now, from my understanding, the Kevlar strings did not give you a lot of longevity, and that's the reason it turned a lot of people off from using them. So when you really stop to think about it, you have two granddaddy strings that dominate the market. You have what's called a Fast Flight string, which is either Spectra or Dyneema, and then you have your Dacron string. Now, within both of those two categories, there's countless varieties or variations on which string you can get. It's really just a matter of choice. Now, the question always comes up, can I use a Fast Flight string on my bow? Well, that depends on your bow, and more specifically, your limb tips. If your bow limb tips are not reinforced in some way, no, you cannot use a Fast Flight string on your bow. Think of Fast Flight like this. It's almost like a jackhammer, if you will. There's a lot of energy, very low stretch, very low creep on that string. So what happens is, whenever you pull back to set that shot and then you release that string, that bow goes back to its static state and that string does not stretch at all. And what happens is the limbs come to an abrupt stop, or come to a stop a lot faster than if you were using a Dacron string. And because of that sudden stop, if you will, that is what damages the limb tips, as opposed to a Dacron type material, which has a lot of stretch and a lot of give. This is a lot more forgiving on your limb tips. So, you know, I use Dacron B50 and B55 a lot. I just like the material. The only negative to a B50 or a B55 Dacron string is the simple fact that you are going to get a lot of stretch over the course of time shooting that, and because of that, you're going to have to adjust your brace height or twist the string and adjust the brace height a lot more often than you would if you were using a Fast Flight string. So keep that in mind whenever you're deciding what you're going to put on your bow to go out and shoot with. Now, we're going to be building a string in this video. I'm going to show you the equipment that I use, and I'll even post a link in the video description to where you can go get the plans for the string jig I am going to be using in this video. So let's get to it. Let's go down to the table and let's build a string. Okay, so you don't need to spend a lot of money on a string jig. You can actually build a simple one like this in an afternoon with just probably some materials that you've got at home. This is just the anatomy of the string jig. You've got two sets of 10 nails here. These are just finishing nails. Then you've got your markings here. These are AMO length. So meaning my Samick Sage, for example, is a 62-inch overall length bow. So all I have to do is put my locator pin in the 62 mark, and that gives me the perfect string length whenever I'm making my strings. You also have two pins up top here. This is for wrapping the string around, and I'll show you that here in just a moment. But again, these are very simple to make. If you learn this skill of making your own string, it's really going to give you a sense of satisfaction, enjoyment, and it's also going to save you a lot of money in the long run. Now, it doesn't matter which string you start with. We're going to make a two-color strand Flemish twist string. Now, what I do is I take the string, just make a little loop here. We want to put it in on your outside pin. Just tie it tight like that. Now, you need to determine what thickness of string you're going to make. 14, 16, 18. 18 is a really thick string. I generally go with a 16 strand string, so that means that I will have two bundles of 8 strands whenever I get this one done, or get both of the strings done to weave together, if you will. Now it's important here, you want to go around this pin, you're going to come up to your top locator pins, and all you're doing is following the pattern just like this. Now the mistake most people make is they'll come in and they'll go right to here. So don't do that. You want to come all the way around the end again. That is one loop. That's your first loop. So the good thing about this is if you're trying to remember how many strands you've gotten so far, you can always count the pins. That gives you your strand count. So then we just continue around like so, and then we build up the number of strands. So that is 2 loops on my strands, and we're going to do 8 on this. So let me go ahead and get that done, and then we'll come back whenever it's done, and then we'll show you what to do with the string at that point. Okay, so now we've got 8 strands on this jig, and we are ready to take this string off and then start with our next color. All right, so once you get your strand count right, just want to take and hold this piece here. Take your knife. Now, before you pull this off the jig, you want to take and put wax on the ends here, because this is going to help hold the string together. And when you do that, it's actually going to help you whenever you get ready for the build process. So let me grab my wax and we will put some on there. Now, they make what's called a string builder's wax. I actually just use this Allen's wax. I think I picked this up at Academy or something. It's a thick wax, and it actually does a really good job at coating the strings. Now, the ends are what you really want to be concerned with whenever you are building your string, because you're not going to have an opportunity to put string wax on these after you get everything together and get all your ends twisted up. So don't be hesitant to put a fair amount of wax on these string tips, or these bundle tips, ends if you will, because you want to make sure again that you've got enough wax coated in there that it's going to protect that string from the elements and just keep it in good condition. And plus, the wax is going to help hold these strands together as you're doing your weaving. Makes it for a much easier and cleaner process. And then do the other end of your bundle of strands. And there you go. That is your first bundle. Now you can just put this to the side, and then we're going to make the other one. Go. Get my wax on the ends here. And again, be very, very, very generous with your wax on the the ends of your bundles here. I think I need to push that wax out some more, because you're not going to be able to wax those once you get it installed and put on your bow. Okay. So again, you want to make sure that your string looks good all the way down. Your bundles are together, or your strands are together. You'll know if you've got one that's sticking out, and just take a few minutes and fix that if you can, like that one there, because again, you don't want anything that's going to create issues with your build. Okay, for this part of the string build, you're going to need a ruler. Keep a couple of these laying around. And you just want to match up your ends. Make sure that they are flush with each other, if you will. Now, what I tend to do is do an 8 1/4 measurement here. You can go 8 1/2, depending on how big you want your loops to be. 8 1/4, though, gives me a really good working distance, if you will. And if you get this too far, like if you try to do this, it's going to create a situation where your string is too short. So you don't really want to, and trust me, I've done that a couple of times. So do an 8 1/4 here. That's about right. And then what you want to do is on your pin here, wrap your string around just like this, and then take the rest of your string down to one of your pins on the other end of your jig. So you want to do 1/4 inch turn, or not 1/4 inch, you want to do counterclockwise twist in your string before you start to weave it together. And do this on both sides. Now, they don't have to be super tight, but you want them to be neat. Now, once you've done the counterclockwise twist in your string, you want to go over clockwise. And every time you go over, you twist. So it's going to help you make a very nice braid for your bundles. And again, this is something that comes with time. You'll get better at it, you know, after your first initial one. And even my strings still don't come out perfect. For as long as I've been building them, I still have flaws and issues sometimes. And as long as they don't affect the shot or create a safety issue, I don't really worry about it too much. And then you just want to check. We're going to make this one the bottom loop. So that's good enough right there for that. Just about an inch or so is all you really need there. And then what you want to do is hold this. Let me get this, untwist your string down at the bottom here. And then you want to wrap around here. Now here's where you need to make sure, you want to make sure that your strings are matching, because it'll make for an odd looking build if you don't. Okay. So you want to pull it around. I'll match your green with your green and your brown with your brown. And then you do the exact same process. And then you just start your weaving of your bundles together. And basically, once you put the twist in this string, it's going to twist down on itself, and these are not going to come apart whenever you're out shooting. This is where it gets a little bit tricky because the tag ends, they're probably a little off in length. So you can see you get some little anomalies like that. Don't worry about that. It's okay. It's not going to affect the strength of the string or the performance of the string, and you can trim those up whenever you get to the final part of the build. And let me twist down here so you guys can see what I'm doing. And you want to go all the way to where your last tag ends are. That way you don't have any sticking up. See, and like I was telling you, my string builds don't come out perfect all the time. Don't worry about that too much. We're going to fix that here in just a minute. Now, the pieces that you had tied to the pins down there, you want to take one of those and use it here, so you can keep that from unraveling as you're doing the other side of the string. And there you go. There is your first loop end. And again, we'll clean all this up whenever we get finished with it, but right now, that's a very good beginning to a string. Okay, so now that I have this loop end built, I'm still going to use the jig here, and I'm going to put this over the end, and then I'm going to stretch out my string like so. You're going to have to, if your ends don't match, which these match up really well, if they don't match, you can put twist in whichever one that you need to shorten to make sure that they match. These, I'm going to shorten this up just a little bit. It's not off by much. And again, you can see here that it's pretty much matched on that. Now, here's what you want to do. Before you do the other end, you want to put about 20 twists in your string. And what this does is it lets the string unwind instead of winding up and being all kinds of gnarly on you, if you will, whenever you get to your final product. About 20 is all you need. Same for this side. 20. Then just match. Make sure that you're good on that end. And I have a good match. So once you've got that, then you're going to come back and repeat the process. Should be good there. All right, and proceed with your twisting. As you're going, you can unravel your string a little bit. Keeps it from getting into a knot. Now you don't need to tie this end because we're going to twist the string in on itself. So just take this part off holding onto this, and you put your other loop back on. And then twist it. This is twisting in on itself. You can put as many twists as you want to in this. I normally try to stay within the 10 to 20 range depending on the string itself. And all this is doing is twisting the string back down upon itself. And it's going to keep it from coming unraveled. Okay. We're going to start there. I'm going to go ahead and put this string on the bow. And we're going to see where we are as far as adjustment-wise goes. And you just want to check it as you're doing this. Make sure that it's all together. You should be good, though. So this is my top string for my top limb. Slide it down. I think I may have to do some more twists in this. Let me get a stringer. Hopefully this is coming through. Not out of screen. It's hard to do this in this little space that I have. Now your string is on. We want to do one thing. We want to test and make sure where the brace height is for this. So I could take a couple of twists out of this. It's right at 8 1/4. Well, just a little under. It's an 8 1/8. 7 1/2, 8 inches is where I generally go. But the string is going to stretch a little bit, so I'm not really too concerned about that. If it were like really, really high, like say 8 1/2, 8 3/4, then I would take the string back off and I would actually take some twists out of it to let it lengthen out a little bit. But just at 8 1/8, this is going to stretch as I'm doing what I need to do to it. So I'm good there. So I think I'm going to leave that string on. And there you go. There is your bowstring. Again, a little bit ugly here. Don't be concerned about that. But it's that simple to make a bowstring. Now I mentioned earlier that I use 2 different types of string wax. This is a very thin. This is a Textite string wax. And all you want to do is take this, put a good coating on there, like so. Get it on there really good. Don't worry if it glops up because we're going to melt that off. Coat as much of the exposed string as you can. Once you have that done, take a little piece of leather. This is an old leather work glove I cut the fingers out of. Of course, I don't know where the other tips have went to, so I'm stuck using this one. And then you just want to apply pressure and rub the string for the length of the string. And what that's doing is it's heating that wax and it's melting it into the fibers of the string. Just want to make sure you get a good coating on that. Now I've seen people take strings and then go down the string afterwards to clean off the excess. I generally don't do that. Maybe out of laziness. It may just be the fact that I don't think it needs to be done. But again, to each his own. I don't knock the way anybody else does anything. Alrighty. So now I have a good coating of wax on the string. Those fibers are going to be good. Now, even though we've done this kind of excessively right now, you still have to, as you're using your bow, make sure that you're putting string wax on there, depending on how much you're shooting. So that is your first string build. Now, which string material should you use? Fast Flight or a Dacron string? I probably would recommend against using the hair string. I don't get that, but nonetheless, really it's a matter of personal preference. It doesn't matter which one you use. The only thing that I can tell you, if you do use a Fast Flight string, make sure that you have reinforced limb tips and make sure that you're going to stick with that Fast Flight string, because it will affect tuning switching from a Dacron to a Fast Flight material, just because of the nature of the material and how your bow reacts with it. So keep that in mind, and we'll get into the tuning aspect of that a little bit later on in a few more videos, because again, that's part of the process whenever you're learning and growing when it comes to archery. But I hope you enjoyed the string build tutorial. Now, if you do decide to build your own string and you got questions, please reach out to me. I have no problem answering any question that you may have. But it's a simple process. It's a little bit daunting at the beginning, especially for your first string, because again, you think, like I was thinking, oh man, I hope this doesn't mess my bow up or doesn't, unravel in my face. But after you get through a few builds and start getting your groove down and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't, that's when you're going to get a lot of enjoyment and a big return on your investment, for a minimal investment, just your string and your string jig. I will post a link to the string jig build with all the measurements so you can build your own. It's a very simple process, but I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's helped you, especially you new archers out there. Hope it's taken some of the mystery out of the strings and the mystery out of building a string. So for my new subscribers, thank you so much for thinking enough of my content to subscribe to my channel. It really means a lot to me. And for those of you that have been with me for a while, thank you so much for your continued support. I really appreciate that more than you know. So again, I hope this has been a good little tutorial for you. I hope it's given you some information that you can use going forward. And as always, I hope you have a great day, a better day tomorrow, and a wonderful week ahead of you. And until next time.